You want to know more about what's happening in the UK HPC markets? We'll find out from one of our overseas attendees next. Welcome to SC21 TV. I'm your host, Charla Bokikio. We are live at the SC21 TV news desk, meeting leaders in the world of high-performance computing. With me now is Wll Mayers. How are you, Will?
I'm good, thank you.
You've come all the way from the UK to join us.
That's right.
First time on an airplane in a long time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like the rest of us.
First bit of travel, sure.
So you are with the CXL Consortium. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You are the technical consultant for ALSA's Flight UK and HPC. Excuse me for that. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your work with them and more about the organization.
Sure, absolutely. So ALSA's Flight is a consultancy organization, and what we do is we create solutions for customers. Now, a lot of that involves talking to the customers to find out what their problems are, creating their solutions, and then helping to support those and look after those going forward.
Gotcha. So the ALSA's Flight has an exhibit here.
Sure.
At SE, and tell us about what you guys are highlighting over there, and why should people come by and see what you're doing at your booth?
So one of the issues a lot of customers have is choosing what platforms to actually use for their HPC. So we've spent a lot of time working with customers, both with their physical on-prem clusters and the cloud solutions as well. So for some customers, they need the immediacy of public cloud. They need the ability to create and start solutions to really help them day to day. But they also need the reassurance and that sort of long-term build of an on-prem facility. So what we do is we create hybrid solutions that incorporate the best of both of those platforms, and we help customers by making those accessible and doing things like controlling the cost of budgeting for solutions like that.
Excellent. So what can an attendee expect when they stop by your booth?
Sure.
What are they going to see? What are the highlights?
Absolutely. We've got some demos there where we're showing people how we can budget public cloud. So for users who are used to using traditional HPC platforms with a job scheduler and applications, we can set and help them set monthly budgets. We can make sure that the solution stays within that budget, so we can control their usage. And we can tie that to different job schedulers, different application stacks, help them automate their workflows. So we've got some demonstrations of different things we do there, different types of computing, so GPU, high bandwidth storage, that sort of thing. And what we do is really demonstrate how they can control those different solutions for different environments.
Right. Why are people so excited about using GPUs? You just mentioned.
Sure. So GPUs are probably an example of one of those industry-changing things. The ability to use artificial intelligence is one of those things you can append to the beginning or the end of any standard workflow. So using AI, you can really help to optimize the different HPC workloads that you're going to be processing. And then after you process the workload, you can use AI machine learning to go through those results and really look at the ones which are the most relevant or the most convenient. So unlike a lot of technologies that perhaps will speed up or optimize an existing process, AI and typically using a GPU processor can really minimize the set of computing you're doing, because you're doing a pre and a post optimization. So for some techniques, for some way of working, you can get groundbreaking changes in performance and throughput just by employing those AI techniques.
Very interesting. How can you promote inclusivity across the Epc users?
Sure, and this is a big topic for a lot of our customers. Inclusivity is really, really important when we're looking at building the community and sort of sustaining that going forward. We have a bit of an imbalance currently of researchers, and by promoting the different features that are available on the platform, so training research software engineers who can really approach users and help them build their workloads. We can be more inclusive in the way we bring new researchers onto the platform. So all sorts of skills, all sorts of abilities, all sorts of backgrounds for these research, for these users. An RSE and a strong RSE presence really helps us bring those users on board and start to use these systems effectively and efficiently.
Gotcha.
Now, part of what we do at Alsus is create a bunch of tools that can help people manage their platforms and build and sort of stand up their platforms quickly and easily. And that really does free up time to help that inclusivity drive and to bring new users on board, even for complex systems.
Yeah. So what about talk to me about encouraging non-traditional workloads from HPC users.
Sure. So traditionally, a lot of workloads have been sort of batch scheduled, they've been pre-automated. So part of my job at Alsus is to really help people transition from other clusters to the current one they're building, be that an on-prem system or a cloud platform. But equally, we're starting to see now, particularly for the research community, the academic community, people bringing workloads of different types. So containerized workloads, GPU AI workloads, but also data-heavy, sort of quite different workloads to traditionally what an HPC cluster has been processed. Now, being able to handle those workloads is a mixture of obviously having those outreach programs in place, having those RSEs in place, so you can really engage with the users and capture their requirements. But part of what we do at Alsus is try to build sustainable solutions where the end users are not having to do a lot of work, they're not having to really change their workflows and their methods. They can use what is a fairly traditional setup. And our system tools and some of the tools that we're demonstrating here on the booth are able to take those workloads and run them far more quickly, far more cost effectively across both traditional on-prem and cloud platforms as well.
Interesting. So there's another, well, you probably already talked a little bit about this. How can we maximize power efficiency for existing HPC clusters?
Sure, and that's another great question. I think power efficiency is such an important thing that I know a lot of sites are looking at the moment. And obviously here at the show, we have a lot of vendors talking about the latest power efficient hardware, the latest interconnects, the latest storage systems to really minimize the power footprint of the systems we see. However, I think for us, the biggest way we can improve the efficiency overall is to really make use of the systems that are there, that are available. Now that is part automation, as part sort of getting these workflows optimized so they can run 24/7, we don't have hardware sitting idle. It's partly making sure that when we're deploying, those systems are up and running as quickly as possible, so we call it minimizing the time to science for building new environments. But also, as part of that RSE program, that outreach program, you minimize the idle time if you can help the users get up and running as quickly as possible. So as well as sort of the technical things about minimizing power usage, really it's about leveraging the systems when they're there and making sure that they're kept as busy as they can be, and users are always able to use them.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I have a question here.
Sure.
About the HPC clusters use a lot of power, obviously. There's a question about the HPC needing to study climate change and develop potential solutions, right?
Sure.
So how do you balance this? What is the solution?
Absolutely, and that is a great question. I think questions like that are very, very difficult to have a single answer to. And one of the breakout sessions here at Epc has been about ethical computing and how we balance sort of those joint gravitational pulls of using the systems to compute answers to these questions at the same time generating and releasing more carbon as we're doing that. I think minimizing time to science, so getting up and running as quickly as possible is very important. And certainly when we're working with customers, there's already a lead time for having new hardware systems installed on site. We try and use cloud and use public cloud in particular to minimize that time. A huge amount of training you can do before your new hardware shows up, for example, that can leverage a cloud system that makes the users ready. It gets them up and running faster. It means that when the system is there, it is releasing carbon, it started its sort of hardware life cycle, they're ready to go. There's stuff ready to do.
There's no wasted time.
Absolutely. It's absolutely about that. Wasted wastage is got to be minimized at every stage. So yeah, every opportunity for that is great.
For sure. It sounds like you're doing some important work.
We're trying to, certainly, for our customers.
So as an attendee this year on that side of things, is there anything that's been a real highlight for you this week yet, or something you're looking forward to?
I've really enjoyed travel for the first time in about 18 months. So obviously, I'm from the UK. We've got a bunch of people over here, and really it's been our first international engagement for quite a while. Here at the In Presence show, it has been fantastic to see so many people out and about. It really gives you that sense of hope that things are moving forward and there's sort of future for everybody. I'm looking forward to the end of the show. I think everybody is. Once you've got started, there's so much hype, so much startup. But no, it's been great to see everybody. And I think particularly for the UK market, the European market, just knowing that these things are happening again, we're getting moving. A lot of people, I think, have been worried. They've had that feeling of guilt almost that they should be traveling, but they're not sure. And I think this is the beginning of people coming to terms with that and starting the next stage. For
sure. There's a lot of uncertainty, I know. But yeah, I think we take those baby steps and hopefully we'll be back to normal, some kind of normal.
Absolutely.
Did you attend the virtual conference last year?
Yes, we did. Yeah, absolutely.
So for people that are on the fence about attending next year's conference in person or using the virtual platform, what would you say to them? What would your advice be?
Sure. So I think there's no experience like being at an In Presence show. And obviously everybody's got their own balance to find there. Obviously we'll see where we are next year, but certainly for me, I'll be back attending the physical presentation. It's one of those things when you're building a community, it is far easier to do in person than it is to do in a sort of a virtual way. And I think supercomputing is all about the community. It's all about people working together to build solutions. Each one of the vendor booths I look at as I look around, they're talking about their individual components, but as a solution, as something as a whole, you need all of them. You do need everybody here in the community to build that and create that. So I think that's what it's about.
I love that concept that it's such a collaborative effort.
Sure.
And it takes human beings.
Absolutely. It takes people.
Yeah. And I think that connection piece is really important. I love to hear you all talking about that. Because I think, as a layperson, I sometimes get the idea that, all of these technical people and high-performance computing folks are just kind of stuck behind their machines and in their own space.
Sure.
But it's not the case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are stronger as a community, and we need the whole community.
Yeah.
We need the open source software. We need all the hardware components and doodads we have here. We need people like Altus. We need solutions building out of those components.
Right.
So that's absolutely from meeting people, talking with people, and you can do an element of that virtually. Absolutely, you can create those things, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same
as being in the same space as someone in real time.
Absolutely.
Anything else you wanted to mention about Altus Flight or anything else for that matter before we wrap things up?
Sure. I'd say probably one of the things I've enjoyed at this event has been the community events and the student events. So we've got a bunch of talks, a bunch of presentations where we're talking about things like the ethics around HPC. We're talking about diversity and inclusivity of HPC. And I think it's time to address that balance as we start coming back together as a community. Absolutely, there are things we can all do to improve how approachable these technologies are for real users. And at the end of the day, we're here with lots of booths and lots of shiny lights and all these expensive bits of hardware. But the users, the people actually researching, learning, and using these systems, they're key in this environment. So we have to create solutions that are addressable, that are usable and explainable to everybody.
Right.
So yeah, that's my key takeaway.
Excellent.
Bringing that together is, I think, it's really positive to see.
So that all the work that's being done is for the betterment of society.
Sure, absolutely.
Really,
for us all.
For the people.
Yep.
So one last little question for you on a personal note.
Yeah.
Tell me a little fun fact about you, something that might surprise people. I don't know. Do you have a special skill that nobody knows about? Like, are you a ventriloquist, or I don't know?
I trained as a pianist, so
You what?
I'm
A pianist.
a piano player.
Excellent.
So
Really?
yeah. It's the skill's not immediately transferable to keyboards. It's very, very different. But in my spare time, I go back to my piano, and that's the way I wind down. That's the way I relax.
I love that. Interesting. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you.
You too.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the week.
Sure. Thank you.
For the viewers, stay tuned for the latest in high-performance computing from SC21 TV. Make sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please plan to attend next year's conference in Dallas, SC22. I'm Charla Boquicchio.